Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Path of Exile tutorial. So, today we're actually going to do a couple things. First, we are going to talk about Kingsmarch Gold Sustain. And second, we are going to talk about an interesting use for that gold. Now, a lot of people have asked me before, how do you sustain Kingsmarch when you're paying 20,000 gold per hour? Or when you have mappers going 50 or 60,000 gold per hour? Well, the answer is really quite simple. I don't. Instead, I take a small amount of my profits from running maps and doing other forms of content, and I just simply buy a rota on TFT. At the time of recording, you can take 9 divines, which is a lot of money, admittedly, and with it you can buy 3 million gold. You go into a map, actually usually winds up being about 3 maps. You run, you go in, takes a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes, give or take, for the whole thing, and all of a sudden, boom, 3 million gold, right? And this amount of gold, especially early in a league, if you can do it with your first couple divines when gold is even cheaper, this will allow you to get all of your mappers level 5. It'll allow you to get all of your miners level 5, all your smelters level 5, well, wherever they are, right? And of course, all your boat people, unless you lose one like I did yesterday. It's very easy to go ahead and get everything that you need to get Kingsmarch up and running. But okay, you've got 3 million gold. That's over a week's worth of gold just running your farmers. What about the extra gold? What about gold you generate when you're doing maps, when you're doing content? What can you do with it? Well, a lot of people have done stuff like recombinators. I'm not a huge fan of that, especially not this league because rare gear is so cheap. People buy and sell things on the currency exchange and get fragments and things of that nature. That's pretty decent. Some people some people do some really insane things like I did last week. Like for example, buying orbs of chance, 20 per chaos, right? And then turning those orbs of chance into orbs of scours at a vendor, and then turning around and selling those orbs of scouring back on the market. 20 orbs of chance is 5 scouring orbs. And 5 scouring orbs is just about 2 chaos. It's not quite. But if you bought, say, 200, well, that's 50. And that's a profit. It's a silly one, yes. Also, you definitely want to sell it like this and not directly, but it's a thing that people do. Last week I made probably close to 20 divines flipping chance and scour orbs. I'm not even kidding. It was just, I was bored and had a ton of money. But instead, we're going to talk about something a little more involved. We're going to talk about mappers. Now, a lot of people who do Kingsmarch mapping have watched other videos on YouTube and gotten a little bit of anecdotal information here and there. Today, instead, we're going to give a little bit of science. Now, this map device is empty because prior to this video, I emptied out all the maps that I had ran in here. I collected all the money, all the items, I put a whole bunch of stuff in here for jewelry and whatnot, and I've sold a fair bit of it too. Mappers actually tend to give fairly reasonable rare rings, jewels, influenced items, things like that. So putting those on the market can result in a fair bit of profit just passively, especially now with asynchronous trade. You get a few decent jewels, a few decent items, maybe you get a whole bunch of random jewels and you evolve them to get corrupted blood immunity, whatever, and then you throw them on Faustus for 5 chaos, someone comes in, grabs it. Costs you next to nothing to do that, right? Since Vol Orbs don't basically cost anything most leagues. But it still costs you the map. It still costs you whatever it takes to set up the map. And so I got to thinking, what is the most efficient way to run mappers? The answer that I came up with from a fair amount of testing is actually Elder Guardian maps and to a lesser extent Conqueror maps. So unfortunately I had already cleared these because these were T17s that I needed this morning. But these maps have not been looked at yet, right? As you can see, almost all of them are 100% complete. This one did not. So we're just going to real quickly go through and take a look at one. Oh, actually, I take that back. I guess I already opened this one. So we're just going to grab a couple of the pieces real quick, and then we're going to delete this one. All right, so look at this one. So this is what you will get when you do an influenced map, an Elder Guardian map. You will get a guaranteed fragment. At the time of recording, these fragments are 10 to 15 to 20 chaos, depending on what you get. So that right there is just money. You converted a half an hour of time of your mappers, which is around 7,000 gold, if you have tier 5 mappers, and you got this, which is worth, again, like 20 chaos. Okay. You get a bunch of other stuff like scarabs and bubblegum currency like this. We're going to go ahead and turn off the filter to make it easier for people to see. And we get 21 level gems. I'm not going to grab this one, but we do get them. If you get a 2120, that can be worth quite a bit of money. You get stuff like this, Elder Influence Ring. Is this a good ring? No, it's not. It's got no good mods, but we're going to come back to this in a minute. So you take a look, you grab, in my opinion, any unique ring, any unique jewel, most unique one-handed weapons, stuff like that. You take a look at any influenced items that you get. So maybe I'll grab this one, or I'll grab this shield. Look at the gloves, they're garbage. You know, look at this. They're usually going to be pretty garbage. Most of this stuff, not worth my time, at least not in this league. Maybe next league when we don't have the tree, but most of it, not worth my time. But I did grab this stuff. Now, what can we do here? Well, alright, so we got a bunch of scarabs. We got like one chaos here. We got a fragment, which we're going to go ahead and deal with in a second. And then these are the items that we took from technically 1.5. Well, these items aren't probably worth selling, you know. Maybe some tier 2 rolls, a couple tier 1 rolls, but not necessarily really good. Certainly not in a good combination. But look at that. That's 5,000 dust. That's 3,000 dust. Not going to bother with that. That's 6,000. That is 8,000, so it's 4,000 per. That's okay. 7,000, 5,000, 12,000, which really works out to be about 3,000. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm just going to for now. 8,000 again, 13,000. And then this Elder Guardian ring. 10,000. This one ring is 10,000 dust. It takes 25 million dust to send a full shipment, which will reward you with mirror shards. Getting dust is rather difficult. As you can see here, I have a whole bunch of just random garbage in here currently. It all will be done in 5 hours, and I've got 12 million dust. So your mappers can provide you with a whole bunch of items that you can then dust. Things that you want to keep an eye out for are specifically tier 1 elemental attacks or damage with attacks and tier 1 mana on rings. If you get a ring with those two tier 1 or tier 2 mods, it's going to dust for 15, 20,000 dust depending on, you know, if it's influenced or stuff like that. An influenced base, of course, gets a modifier to how much it gets of 50% per influence. If it has a corruption implicit for each line of the implicit, that's another 50% increase to the dust cost. Quality on the jewelry will increase. So like if you get a really good double corrupted rare, you can just slap a single tainted catalyst on it. You know, all these things can give you a really expensive ring. But that's not the main thing. That's just a nice little bonus. The main thing is stuff like this. Fragments, dust from the harvest when you get harvests, simulacrum splinters, which this league simulacrums are not worth a whole heck of a lot, at least not currently. Scarabs, and then of course, random uniques, random garbage that are like 2120s. And then of course, cluster jewels. Now, we are running currently 8 mod tier 16 Elder Guardian maps. The reason we're running these is because they are cheap. They almost always have 20 quality. And they almost always have 100% item quantity or better. Oh, look at that. Someone wants to buy something that I just listed. Just like that. That's 5C. Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's something. Oop, wrong tab. So we're going to go ahead and go over here. I'm going to trade this item to this person real quick. Come on. There you go.
Look at that. Look at that belt. That dropped from Kingsmarch. That is tier 1 mana, tier 1 life regen, and tier 5 strength on a life base. That's not bad. This league, it ain't worth anything. But other leagues it might be. I usually do take a look at the items to see if there is something good. But this league, no. This league, again, most items from the tree and elsewise are just not really worth anything. So they just go into the duster, get converted, right? We're going to go ahead and store these fragments over here. All these bubblegum currencies we're not really going to pay attention to in terms of value. We're just going to toss them in. You'll notice we got 10 Astragalis here. Okay, so that's like 20 chaos or something like that. We're going to keep the fragments and these over here for a moment. Need to delete this actually, because otherwise it's going to bug me. Alright, so we grab some more stuff, more junk, more bubblegum currency. Occasionally you might get a good div card. After a while, you'll get so fast at this that it doesn't even take you more than a few seconds, you know. You look for common uniques. If you see a good unique that will dust, you grab it. Everything else, you give it a once over, especially helmets. Elder Guardian helmets can have really good mods for like Righteous Fire players, things like that. So always be on the lookout for them. You know, you get fragments like that. Always check your gems. So like that's a GCP if we want it, which we do. Grab maps because you can sell maps in bulk. When you do a Conqueror map, you are not necessarily only going to get the Conqueror or the items of the Conqueror that the map is in. As you can see here, this is a Hunter Quiver and a Warlord mace or scepter. So you can very easily get some really interesting items that you shouldn't really be able to get, but you can because the game doesn't really care. It doesn't matter if it's a Warlords or a Redeemer or whatever. You're just going to get random items of influence. That's actually not worth dusting. Oh, and neither is that actually. Go ahead and throw that in, throw those in. Those are okay. That's okay. That's too low. Oh, here we go. Look at that. That is a 15,000 amulet right there. Is it worth anything to sell? No, not really. I mean, the damage per strength might be worth something to someone, I guess. Maybe we'll try and sell that, but the rest of the mods, like this one, look at this. This is a triple res, T1 Chaos, Tier 2 Lightning, Tier 4 Fire, with some other stuff on it. It's not worth anything, but it's worth 10,000 dust. So we'll just go ahead and list these items in here, get them turned to dust, and we'll drop off the rest. That actually needs to be sold. Okay. And we'll just real quickly collect the rest of this stuff. We're going to skip most of the gear because we're getting kind of full on ROG. We'll grab rings, we'll grab amulets, we'll grab maps, and Elder Guardian stuff. But nothing else. Alright. And the last one. Oh. And that looks like to be about it. Huh. Yep, alright, cool. So, what did we get from those maps? Well, we got about 10,000, oop, I didn't want to toss that in there, whatever. We got about 10,000 rogue markers, which is pretty nice, right? Let's go ahead and list that actually. Nothing good here, nothing good here, nothing good here, nothing good, okay. So we got about 10,000 rogue markers, which is something. It's It's not nothing. We got 10 of these Astragalis. We got 4 Elder Guardian fragments and 1 Conqueror fragment. Sorry, 5 Elder Guardian fragments and 1 Conqueror fragment. Like, all in all, like, really not bad. So the next question becomes, okay, how much did it cost to do this? Well, your mileage may vary, but I was buying these maps for between 4 and 6 chaos each. Every single map that you 100% complete is about guaranteed to give you a chaos or 2 in just random bubblegum currency, a chaos or 2 in actual chaos, and then a fragment. And again, these fragments are worth something. So we're going to go over to Faustus real quick, and we're going to quickly price check these. So we got a Baron's Crest, that is 13 chaos, right? If we sold it to people willing to pay, it's 15. We've got a Constriction for 17 chaos, again, so if somebody wants it, we can maybe get 19. 17 for this, 16 for this, or 20. So we're just going to say these are all 19 for the sake of argument. So we got about 95C in Elder Guardian fragments, and then we got one of these for another 13. So 110 we're going to call it. And then the Astragalis here are not actually worth anything apparently. Oh no, they are. This is just somebody trolling. So we could list 10 of them 10C. So call it 120 chaos in important stuff. We got 1 cluster jewel. Now that's actually extremely low for me. Normally I get 1 every other map, but RNG is RNG. And we gained a whole bunch of stuff for the duster here. We gained 4 hours worth of stuff to be dusted. And when this is all said and done, this will provide me with another roughly million dust. Passively, don't have to deal with it, don't care. And then occasionally, like this batch here that I did, I got 2 raw divine orbs. I got 2. I didn't get a lot of raw chaos, just a bunch of random 1 of 2 of currencies, but I got 2 divine orbs, 1 and 2 separate maps. This can be quite good. If you get a single divine orb in 20 maps, or sorry, no, it's not in 20 maps, it is in 18 maps, I believe. Something close to that, yeah. If you get a single divine orb in like 18 maps, then you will have effectively paid for all of the maps that you bought. Just outright paid for it, right? All the dust that you're getting, that has value. Like multiple divines per millions of dust. So, all told, this is a really good passive way to make money even when you go to bed. You set stuff up like I'm going to before I go to bed. You buy some maps, maybe get a couple T17s if you don't really care. Throw in some Elder Guardians, throw in some synth maps or whatever. You can't do blight maps, but you can do pretty much any other kind of map. You can do maps with enchantments on them. Whether or not the enchantment forces loot, I have not tested. I have been told that it does, but I have not personally put eyes on it, so I cannot vouch that putting one in with like map contains a harvest. I can't vouch that it actually contains a harvest and actually will give life force. If it does, that's huge. You can force a map to have a harvest really cheaply, and you can just throw it in and collect free dust, basically. Or ultimatum, to get ultimatum stuff. But ultimately, what I find is the best thing to do is just simply buy... Oop, where'd they go? To simply buy Elder Guardian maps like this. Takes no time. All you search for is number of prefix modifiers, for or suffix, doesn't make a difference, and map is occupied by. And you don't even have to choose who the map is occupied by. You just put map is occupied by. You go up to your map type. You can set it to tier 16. That way you don't get these tier 15 maps, which we're going to actually do here. So minimum level tier 16. Hit search, and look at that. I also set it usually to instant buyout only because I don't want to have to actually trade somebody. Here's a map. 133% quant, 20% quality. None of this matters. We're just going to go buy it. This is a bricked map that someone else cannot run. Maybe it's got reflect. Maybe it's got some other mod that they just can't touch. And oh look, he's got all kinds of stuff. Let's see, where's the map that we're looking for here? Right here? 5C. Done. What's this one? Not corrupted, not corrupted. Let's go ahead and go check out for corrupted. So he doesn't have any good corruption maps for Guardians. At least not in this tab. Okay. These are what? 4C each? Sure. We'll go ahead and buy these just because. And then we will go to the next one. And we're going to go ahead and just do this. We'll go buyer by buyer. Anything worth or anything that is being listed for 10C or less, we're probably going to buy it. That's 10C or less. That's 10C or less. So there, we just got a whole bunch of them. On to the next. If you're really good and you set up like not buy orders, but on the trade website, lists that will show you when something is being listed for sale, you know, and just ping you, then you can get all kinds. Like, look at this guy. This guy's got a whole bunch of them. And let's see. So we need 12. That's 10, 11. Let's get one more for 12. Okay. And then we'll just get another set of maps. You know what? We're going to try something here. I don't normally do these maps, but... Oop. I did not want to click on that. Silly Faustus. We don't do Shaper Guardian. The Shaper fragments are not worth much, like just at all. The maps are the same difficulty as Elder Guardian maps. Tier 17s, wow, this guy's got a lot of Tier 17s. These can be worth it if you get a good map that can drop a good fragment, but you're asking for trouble if you do that, because all it takes is one dry streak, and you spent a ton of money and got nothing for it. I'm not really wanting to do these Conqueror ones. Conqueror are kind of the best if you manage to actually get good ones. I'm just going to go ahead and buy them all. Because you can get rings, gloves, things with Conqueror mods that are really, really expensive. So, kind of rambled a bit on that, but I would say Conqueror are the best, number one. The fragments are worth good money, or just the drops in general. Okay, you can't do synth, so interesting. But that's okay. We'll just go ahead and throw these guys in, hit open map. And there, just like that. They're, like I said, roughly a half an hour each. If you look at it, expected map completion 55% to 100%, so they are capable of completing the map fully. I find that it's usually in the high 90s. This one's probably not going to be completed. It's also a 2% chance to fail, so this is a really dangerous one apparently. But most of the time with tier 5 map runners, you're going to be 50 to 60% minimum, and you're going to have a 1% chance to fail, or to lose a map runner, not fail. They basically don't fail. But yeah, this isn't bad. This is now done. I can go ahead and find any like this that I don't like that are 2%, pull them out. If I don't feel like, you know, it's worth my map runners to risk their lives for. Put two different ones in. There. And now it's done, right? Oh, that's actually 2%. Let's do that one. There we go. And we'll do the same with this one. We'll just come through real quick, take a gander, and see 1% on all of these. Yep, all 1%. So these are 24 maps. If half of these maps give a fragment, if I get 100% completion on half of these, then I am looking at 12 times, we're just going to say it was 18C and then I spent, or divided by 24 for 24 maps, just half of these giving me a fragment pays for all the mappers. It doesn't pay for the gold cost, of course, which, again, as you can see here, as you can see here, is 14 or 15,000 gold per hour. So we're going to call this 30,000 gold per hour, and it's going to take 6 hours. So that's 180,000 gold. But if you're just running regular map content and you're doing Blight, which can print hundreds of thousands of gold per map, if you are doing the new Ghosted Legion strategy that people are doing, lots of unique farming, you can basically print 20 to 120,000 gold a map without much effort, without gold gear, rarity gear, stuff like that. And if you really go ham and you do, like I said, do blights, special blight setups like I have in my previous videos, you can get 300,000 plus gold per map. And that was without the boots that give 45% or whatever it is increased gold drop. So just imagine pulling 500,000 gold from doing blights if you can stomach blight content, which I can. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Kingsmarch, despite a lot of people giving it hate, is extremely profitable any league. The farmers give you mirror shards, divine orbs, tattoos, all easily liquidatable currencies. Shipping, you can take your ores and bars and turn them in for various rewards, especially early in the league when leagues where we don't have the Genesis tree. You can send bars out and get yourself really good high eye level 6 links at the start of league. Imagine, if you will, you hard rush and get yourself some settler stuff and you start getting some bar or ores to smelt to bars, and you turn in just 50,000 bars and you get a 6 link literally day one within the first 6 hours. What would people pay for that? Chances are it'll be a good one too. So they're all good in their own ways. Dusting is kind of lackluster, but when you combine it with the mapping device, which is only going to have reasonably decent well-rolled items, you just take the well-rolled ones that aren't worth selling and you dust them, and you fill this bar up pretty passively without having to buy uniques to turn around and dust. Eventually, you will have the money where you can go out and buy things like double corrupted headhunters to dust, like I did last week, and you'll get 5 million dust per double corrupt. Okay, great. But that still costs you 5, 10, whatever div to do. So, mappers, buy a rota on TFT to get the gold, the initial gold to get started, especially. Once you have that initial pool of 3, 5 million gold, whatever you're looking for, and you get all your people set up, then just your normal mapping will sustain you well enough that you don't really have to worry. And again, of these 12 maps I just put in, I fully expect to get 1 to 2 divines. It will happen. If I do get 1 to 2 divines, on top of, let's just say, the 12 fragments that I'm expecting, I could do that over and over and over again. And by the time this number runs out of gold, I will have generated 20, 30, maybe 40 divines from Kingsmarch alone. And I just go buy another 3 million gold. I go buy another 9 million gold, whatever I feel like. Then my farmers never have to stop. I can keep piling up the resources to turn in for my mirror shards. Real quick, just while we're on the subject, when you want to do shipments, generally speaking, you want to send them to Nakanu or Teanui. You do not want to send them to Pondium. You definitely don't want to send them to Calgar. And you only really want to send Rivenfell if you're doing certain types of currencies. Like, just don't even worry about the Calgaran ones. Focus on the ones that give tattoos. Especially in the early league, you want to try and send enough resources right about there. You want to send enough resources that you hit the 4 million value. This is the maximum amount that you can send to get tattoos, and after this, you don't get any more tattoos. Instead, it just gives you rarer tattoos, which might sound good, but keep in mind, Some tattoos, like the Energy Shield one, they're not rare. They're tier 2 or even tier 3. So increasing your rarity doesn't matter so much. Sending a shipment like this, you're probably going to get 2 to 3 divines in return. You're probably going to get a sacred orb. That could be a mirror shard, by the way. But you're probably just going to get a sacred orb. You're going to get a few divines, some chaos, maybe a 20-30C worth of random bubblegum currency, and you're going to get a ton of tattoos. And depending on the league and depending on the value of tattoos, that can be 10 divines or more, especially with the spell suppression, the movement speed, the the chance to block attacks, which is 2 div at the moment for 1 tattoo. Really good stuff. Eventually, you'll just sit on it, like I am, and it'll just keep going up and up and up. And eventually you're going to get to 50 mil, and you're going to send a big 50 mil shipment, again, only to Nakanu. Or technically you could send it to Tenui as well, but I send it to Nakanu. And you do that, and now you're getting mirror shards. You're building up to a mirror. You're buying your build upgrades. You know, I built this build from scratch, and then I have a second build that I'm building right now, which more on that in a future video. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you did learn something you didn't know, do me a favor. Tell me in the comments that you did learn something. I want to make these videos informative and not just rehashing things that other people have covered. I don't really follow a lot of content creators on YouTube. You know, I follow Ziz occasionally. Sir Gog, he has been a great help, as I've mentioned in past videos. And just kind of whatever strikes my fancy. I feel like doing a specific type of build, I will go YouTube and look up a content creator who makes that kind of build, and I'll go look at what they're doing. And then I'll use their information to inform my decisions. But when it comes to stuff like this with tutorials, I want to make sure that I am providing value to people who are taking the time to watch my admittedly very long videos. 30 minutes is a long commitment. I appreciate all of you so much for watching my videos and making it this far. I'm not going to ask for likes. I'm not going to ask for subscriptions. I do this for fun and to teach others, not to profit. But if you are learning something, or if you have suggestions other than fix your volume, it is too quiet. By the way, I hope this is not too quiet this time. Just leave me a comment, let me know. That way I can make better content for all of you in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.